Tonight on Land Speculation, things are heating up in the Middle Eastern nation of Iran, where protesters continue to be on the streets, and America girds up for a potential, well, I don't know, some kind of world war maybe is coming. And nobody's talking about it because everyone is so fixated on this house in Arizona, waiting for the results of the trial, the kidnapping, we think, story that won't get off the news, the Nancy Guthrie abduction or burglary gone wrong, or who the hell knows what. Maybe everything going on in Iran and Nancy Guthrie are connected. We will tie the knots together tonight. Meanwhile, the Olympics are, continuing to cascade in Italy, and what a bunch of American flops and failures it has been over the last several days there. We can talk a little bit about that. Meanwhile, though, the rest of the world is not so much a series of games, so much as a series of serious things that we probably should be talking a little bit about. So tonight we'll get caught up on some of those things as we dig into, a lot of things, but mostly Iran, tonight on Land Speculation.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. This is land. That ain't just speculation. Something we do with kinky. Quack, 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 quack.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack.
Honk, 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 honk. Give us your money.
That would be weird.
Ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. Let's see. I eat bars of soap for breakfast. I love bars of soap. After midnight, things get weird. Quack, quack.
Oh no. Oh no.
Let it go. Let it go. Cock.
I like that one.
Quack, 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 quack. Come on, ducks.
All right. We are live on Land Speculation on YouTube. Greetings, everyone. It has been a little moment since we last streamed, and, just stuff happens. Life it goes round and round. It's cyclical in a way. Stuff happens. Things get busier. Things get, well, dare I say, slightly less busy, and then even busier again. And so sometimes we go a few days, we can't stream, and I didn't have things teed up, and I was like, oh no, we're gonna have like a week where everybody forgets about us because we don't have anything ready to go. People are gonna be worried. And then nobody was worried, as it turned out. Everyone was just fine with it because people move on, and they live their lives, and it's a reminder how how much, we are all insignificant in the universe. Anyway, Jeanette Quiet Castle and Gator Don't Play, welcome. Thanks for joining us here out of the gate. You guys, the medal winners, congratulations to Calming the Chaos also for being just off the medal stand, which is one of the more interesting positions in the Olympics. Kind of depends on your life outlook, how you take that, whether you view that as an accomplishment, that you were there and it was a great experience and you're supposed to be grateful to everybody, or do you view being just off the medal stand as an egregious failure in which you have let your country down? Lurky is also lurking off in the ether here. Congratulations, Lurky. Thanks for hanging out with us. And Jeanette says, I was not fined, you were gone, Land. Well, now you're making me feel bad. I guess there's no winning here. But yeah, I have some stuff I'm going to upload from my adventures last week. I couldn't. I thought I was going to be able to, and then I couldn't. But I did have some adventures, and so we're going to, I guess, incorporate some of that into future content, and we'll see. Meanwhile, not actually that much happened in the world while we were away. There was like a week of the Olympics. They still didn't find Nancy Guthrie, and I know everyone is probably on the edge of their seat waiting for the resolution. I mean, I don't know. Is there going to be a resolution in the Nancy Guthrie case at this point, or have they all proven themselves so inept at investigating it that we'll never know. We'll never find out. And that'll be that. And we'll all just kind of forget about it in the way that people forget about, kind of forgot about like Natalie Holloway years ago. The old Natalie Holloway case. Snazzy Storm, thanks for stopping by here on Land Speculation. Also, we're going to talk a fair bit about Iran tonight because I was chit-chatting with some folks, and like of all the things that people probably should be a little bit more interested in here, of the things that are in our news, Iran probably is kind of near the top of that list. And we seem to kind of, we weigh these things in our collective consciousnesses, and we get really, really, really pent up about some things that don't matter very much, and then we kind of don't seem to care that much about things that do matter a lot. And it creates this warped world that we're always trying to solve here on everybody's behalf on Land Speculation on YouTube. So we'll talk a little bit about Iran tonight, and anything else you guys want to talk about. This is open fodder. Open fodder if people want to chat about stuff here. Let me know. Let me know what you think the important stuff is here in the chat. I agree. I mean, it's pretty clear. Joran Vandersloot probably did Natalie Holloway, Gator Don't Play. But the question is how? How on earth did Joran Vandersloot do the Natalie Holloway thing? There are a few different competing theories about how exactly it went down, and nobody actually fully knows for sure. And I don't know, that one and JonBenet Ramsey are probably my favorites of the great unresolved murder mysteries in modern American history. And I could probably do several full streams on JonBenet Ramsey. But you guys didn't ask for that, so that's not what we're doing tonight. I forget what people put in the suggestion box on the Discord, which we do have, by the way. There is a suggestion box on the Discord. If you're here, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like and a subscribe on the video, those likes help us out with YouTube. The subscribes help you know when we're on. Check our description for the link to our Discord, where you can propose suggestions for our streams. You can also chat and post things and meme and debate and all that kind of stuff. The Discord is our Buy Me a Coffee link. You can also super chat here on the streams. And then also the link to our sister channel, Land Ducks International, is also linked in the description. Did I get everything? All right. Let's see. Where do we dig into this stuff? Well, Quiet Castle says it's really annoying how the entire news media latches onto one single story nonstop 24/7. Well, fair enough. And I, everyone was requesting, like, can I talk about Nancy Guthrie all week? And so that's what I was planning to do. I was going to be like, I'm just going to talk about Nancy Guthrie nonstop all week. But I'm not going to do that. It is President's Day, by the way, or at least it was President's Day. This is Abraham Lincoln. He is one of the two presidents, in theory, honored directly here on President's Day. His birthday was a few days ago. And this holiday, I guess, gets shared between him and George Washington. and they both were presidents, believe it or not. So there's Abraham Lincoln, and there is Abraham Lincoln in his younger days as a competitive wrestler, which back in rural Illinois in the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, he was apparently quite a good young wrestler. He was tall, he was sturdy. Everyone thinks of him as just tall and lanky, but he was a strong guy. And he knocked out 299 opponents out of his 300 wrestling matches. He went 299 and 1 in his career as a wrestler. And you can see these other guys are like this. He knocked out this guy on the left, and these guys on the right are all scared of Abraham Lincoln. He did lose one time, and he said it was one of the most important lessons of his life. And so think about that. That one time you get knocked down, you have to make something of it. You have to learn enough from it to achieve something so great that you can tell it as like a story in a memoir someday. Abraham Lincoln never got to write his own memoir because, the whole Ford's Theater thing. But anyway, he did apparently it weighed a lot on him that he lost that one battle. If Washington and Lincoln were to meet in person, what do you think they would discuss? That's a good question. Here's George Washington. I think they would have to fight it out over who was the better and more impactful president, don't you think? Maybe. Depends. You would think they would just sort of have some pleasantries at first, try to find some points of common interest, and maybe not just immediately dig into philosophy about the history of the country and the role of government and the presidency and all that. Although maybe they would, because they were both pretty thoughtful. And Washington actually was not that philosophical of a guy. Washington was a really good general and a natural-born statesman, but Lincoln was the more thoughtful thinker of the two. But maybe they would you could get them into a cage match, and you could have them argue back and forth about who the more impactful figure in American history truly was. I would like to see them each argue that, or maybe they would argue the other's position because they were both fairly humble dudes. All right. Well, there's that. So this was President's Day. I guess in theory we're honoring all the other presidents too. So congratulations to all of the presidents for becoming presidents and for having been presidents and having done at least an adequate job that the country stayed together enough while you were presidents. And for the good ones, great. And for the bad ones, try better next time. And I guess, we wouldn't exist if it hadn't been for George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and, maybe it's better than being a bureaucrat, I guess is what I can say for it. Being the president, you're not just like a bureaucrat drone. You do have to actually make executive decisions, and that can be very hard. It's a big operation to run the whole of the United States. Some might say it's the ultimate CEO position. You command a lot of power, and hopefully you don't squander it. Meanwhile, of course, everyone's eyes are still on this house, this now super, super, super famous house in Pima County, Arizona, which is the house that was home to Nancy Guthrie. Which... why exactly did this catch on and is now the thing that is every media outlet is just covering this nonstop? It must get hella ratings because this is crazy. This is crazy how much coverage this is getting. This is like O.J. Simpson case. This is like JonBenet Ramsey. This is crazy coverage of this whole Nancy Guthrie thing at this point. And I don't know. Are people still digging the Nancy Guthrie stuff, or are people tired of it? Are people hankering for me to talk about Nancy Guthrie at this point? I'm a little bit intrigued. I don't know. I don't think they found her body unless stuff is broken in the last 20, 30 minutes. I don't think there have been any crazy breakthroughs in this case. It seems to be quite. Just my layperson observation is that this appears to be quite a botched investigation. Now, those are bold words, and I guess for the people involved, if you're actually doing a great job, my apologies for deigning to characterize it that way. I have no inside information here, and so maybe you're doing great, but it does feel like you kind of sat on this for a while. Not much happened, and now we still really don't have any idea what the hell's happening. Like nobody seems to have any clue about anything here, and it's all just wild speculation. Now I am a little bit intrigued because there is something I've noticed about these cases, like the Nancy Guthrie case. There is a commonality amongst many, many, many of these really famous, like true crime, whodunit, missing persons, kidnapping type cases that have made national headlines in the last several years. And that is that the houses involved in these cases are all some of the most bizarre looking houses that I've ever seen. And I don't know if that's just a symptom of the fact that everyone's house actually looks kind of weird, but like we've been staring at this house on the news media like every day for the last several weeks, and like, what the hell is this house? Like, is this even a house? Like, it's a single story ranch style property. It seems to have like no particular roof of any kind whatsoever. It's just like one story of brick, kind of goes up into the air and ends, and the front door is this like kind of like gnome-like arch. Like, would you even guess this was a house? It's a little bit of a strange looking house, and I don't know. I've never actually watched or been able to follow, or I really don't know anything about any of this like fantastical stuff. The Hobbit and the Ring and Lord of the Harry Potters and stuff like that. I don't know any of that stuff, but it does kind of look like the Alamo. I was looking up, like, this looks kind of like a Hobbit house. And I was looking up, apparently the actual Hobbit house looks like this. I was like, holy crap, that is the Hobbit house. Like, it may be quiet, you're onto something there. It's sort of like if the Alamo met the Hobbit house. This like little door in the center. I don't know, Lorgie, I didn't look up the Gene Hackman house. I looked up a few others, but this is a little strange. Like, this lady's living in this like this crazy little house like this, and I don't. Is this a real place? This looks like kind of a real place. There's like actual lawn chairs out in front. It's the real Hobbit house. Desert Hobbit house. Yeah, it's like a desert Hobbit house. This is like a rainforest Hobbit house. And I guess I guess the thieves broke in. They broke the Ring camera in the door or something, and then they left DNA on the porch or something. So there was a tent in front of the house, and they seem to have like no leads on this thing. They don't know what to pay attention to. It's just all very confusing. But it does seem like a regular thing here that a lot of these houses in some of these great famous cases are all kind of weird looking houses. I will say I found the like footage they were able to pull off the Ring camera to be awfully creepy looking folks. They're in the masks. Like, these are the stuff of like horror movie nightmares, with these like full face masks on with like the painted lips. These are like weird pictures. It's like, man, if I were somebody in that family, wouldn't you be having nightmares about these people? Like, goodness gracious, these full face masks. It's just like knowing these are the people that like took your mother. Man, it's a little creepy. And I was like, I don't even like looking at them. Man. Okay, this is the famous JonBenet Ramsey house, which also looked like a bit of a Hobbit house. It had this like tiny little doorway thing, and then I guess it even had like little gnome candy cane things out in front of the house. And it has like very like small eaves that kind of stack, like you would think like maybe this was the Hobbit's winter home, and then the Arizona is like the Hobbit's summer home. But I don't know, what is it with these missing persons cases and these little Hobbit houses? Of course, in the JonBenet Ramsey case, it was actually a little deceptive because the seeming Hobbit house actually was in the back like a giant house of horrors. This is all part of the same house. The whole thing was an absolute monstrosity. And I don't think the same is the case for the Nancy Guthrie house, although it is larger out back than you would think, and there was a pool out back. The JonBenet Ramsey house is nuts. And it's part of why the intruder theory in the JonBenet Ramsey case is so insane. There was absolutely no way that somebody would have snuck into this house where they claim the person did and then been able to navigate this house in the dark in the way that they claim that they did, unless they intimately knew the family and the house. If you ever looked at the floor plan of the JonBenet Ramsey house, it's like an insane person designed the house. Only somebody with the most perverse of imaginations could have possibly designed the house with these rooms connecting in the ways that they did. Nothing makes sense in the way that these rooms are connected. It's like the house was designed for murder mysteries, which is, I don't know, it's kind of, there's a whole sort of American history of these like murder mystery houses. Here's the famous O.J. Simpson Rockingham house, where he drove the white Bronco, or I guess Al Cowlings drove the white Bronco. It was also full of like crazy sculpture stuff. O.J. had like a giant statue of himself in the backyard. Another crazy look, it's not exactly a Hobbit house, but it is a kind of weird looking house there in Rockingham. Okay, so like planned murder palaces, this was the famous Henry Holmes murder palace in Chicago, which he actually designed to be a giant murder castle with just like he designed it so that he could trap people in different rooms and have like little gas chambers and like listen to their screams, and it was very creepy. He was the first great American serial killer, and by great I mean prolific. Obviously he was a scumbag, but this notion of these like weird, creepy American murder palaces is pretty crazy. The Henry Holmes house is very weird because he had like these weird hallways that didn't connect. You start looking at this, it's nothing like a modern house. It's like stairs that come up, you kind of go through a hallway, and then you go through like a series of dozens of doors to only get into these secret other little back hallways. These rooms connect into other rooms. It doesn't follow any fire code at all. And people must have found it very, very confusing to stay at his little hotel. But the Nancy Guthrie house is like another chapter in a whole American history of creepy little houses that people do murders in. This is the Elizabeth Smart house, which is just a big McMansion, except that it has these giant like mounds behind it. I don't know what the hell's going on there with the landscape that it's in. And then, let's see, what do we have there? Okay, this is the Duke Lacrosse house, another little Hobbit house. This was the Duke Lacrosse fraternity house where like a dozen college dudes lived, even though it looks like it only has about 2 rooms in it. And lots of media. Of course, the most famous like American pop culture house, I think, is the Home Alone house, which I guess the burglars weren't going to attempt a kidnapping, were they? They were just going to attempt to break in and steal stuff. They knew the kid was there. Like, when do the burglars in Home Alone pivot from like we're going to steal stuff from the house to like we're just going to chase this kid and try to like get him? Because it is a little weird that, like, why don't they just ignore the kid and go take the stuff? But the Home Alone house, for some reason, really resonates in the imaginations of Americans. This is the back of the Jeffrey Dahmer house, another very recognizable house in American history. Something about it, something about these houses. Like, to have a good murder mystery, a good like made-for-TV mystery thing, you got to have like an interesting-looking house. And the Nancy Guthrie house, the Hobbit house, certainly fits the bill. And if that were like a more regular-looking house, you wouldn't be looking at pictures of it 24/7 on the cable news. That's my only point on Nancy Guthrie. I don't know who did it. They don't seem to have solved it. They don't seem to have any idea who did it. And I don't know. I don't know what even to say about it. Money and power is treated differently by the police. Yeah, it's weird. Like, why is this one lady's disappearance getting so much media attention when all over America there are murders, rapes, disappearances, all kinds of stuff happening every day? Who the hell knows? Nobody can predict this stuff. Why did Hawk Tuah and the 6'7" video become, of all the millions and millions and millions of hours of content that get uploaded to the internet every day, why did those become the things that went hyper viral? I can't even figure out why some of our videos go more viral than others. I don't know. I don't have any answers for. I don't have any answers for anybody about anything. It's not really a very good tagline since we do live streams about stuff, but that's kind of my general modus operandi about stuff. I really don't have any answers for anybody about anything. I'm just here to calm the insanity as best I can. All right. But we're going to come back to that because it might tie in here. It might tie in here. So meanwhile, America is staring at pictures of Nancy Guthrie's house, and we're also like on the brink of World War III. You know, 50-50, toss-up. Iran is moving closer and closer to some kind of war situation with the United States, which, depending on how these various negotiations turn out, could escalate into something quite dramatic in the Middle East. Maybe the most dramatic Middle East conflict we've had in 20 years since the beginning of the Iraq War. We're certainly gearing up for it in a way we haven't really geared up for something in the Middle East in a long, long time. Maybe since we staged the appearance of a potential maritime invasion to distract Saddam Hussein from our actual plans during the first Gulf War. So during the actual first Gulf War, what actually happened is that America and all of our coalition allies basically conducted a land invasion in which we went up through Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is over here on the left of the screen. And Kuwait is this little country here. And during the Gulf War, Saddam Hussein had come in and had occupied the country of Kuwait. And what happened is America and all of our allies got together and we conducted a land invasion and basically went up and very quickly overwhelmed Iraqi forces, took back Kuwait City, and then pushed the Iraqis back up into Iraq. But America, in order to distract Saddam Hussein, parked an ass-ton of boats in the Persian Gulf to try to trick Saddam Hussein into thinking that we were actually going to do a maritime invasion that would come up through Basra, which is Iraq's only port city, out to the Persian Gulf right here. Iraq is kind of a screwed nation because they have this giant country, but they only have this one little tiny port. And so they're very vulnerable at that one little tiny port of Basra. And so by successfully distracting the Iraqis, Saddam Hussein had to put a bunch of his troops over here instead of down here, where they might have been able to delay the American forces a little bit more. That's neither here nor there. But that was the last time we had a lot of American troop buildup in the Persian Gulf, at least to the extent we are doing right now in Iran, or I guess to try to put pressure on Iran, let's say. And whether or not we are actually preparing a giant military operation in Iran or not is anybody's guess. But certainly, John, we are at the very least trying to put significant pressure on Iran in a way we haven't really ever before. So this is Iran. I ran to do some Irans earlier, and one thing I had to get was in Iran, so I could Iran my shirt because it had a Tehran and oh, am I being too ironic? Crap. I got lost. I got a little lost there. I like how our media shows a satellite photo of one of our aircraft carriers off Oman. They don't have any brains, says Lurky. Okay, but Oman is not unimportant here. Oman is not unimportant in the situation here. I'm going to talk a little bit about that if we get a better map as we move along here. Okay, so this is Iran. Iran matters, sort of. I mean, it does matter. Iran matters a lot. And people are starting to get a little freaked out about this. For the most part, people seem unconvinced that America is actually going to strike Iran, which, I don't know, maybe I've become jaded because I was in the camp of, I don't think Russia is actually going to do Ukraine, and I don't think we're actually going to do anything in Venezuela, and I don't think we're going to do anything in Greenland. And now I'm like, maybe Trump is serious about this stuff, and he's actually going to go bomb the smithereens out of Iran, and so I don't want to not take this seriously. But the betting markets, as of today, still suggest that America is not going to strike Iran. That's the greatest. I mean, I guess 2.8% of people think America will strike Iran by February 28th. So nobody's really buying this yet. So if you want to get in on this now, this is a good time to place your bets. But at the same time, a third of people think that Iran will close the Straits of Hormuz this year and are placing significant bets on that, which is a little strange because if Iran closes the Straits of Hormuz, you can bet that the U.S. will actually bomb Iran. So there's an inconsistency in the betting markets here. And part of this may just be because people don't really fully understand the Iranian situation. Iran is 3 times the size of Iraq. We know land invasion. Well, let's do some land speculation about the future of Iran here. So, obviously, he's going to get personally involved in negotiations with Iran here. This is like a big deal now that the Trump administration is trying to put significant pressure on Iran as Iran continues to try to enrich uranium. Iran is just doing the same old nefarious Iranian stuff they always have been. And, the Iran has had a whole bunch of protests the last few weeks. It's been kind of a crazy time there, and the U.S. sees opportunity to pressure Iran right now. So Donald Trump is going to get involved directly in negotiations with Iran. We're trying to put a lot of military pressure on Iran to play ball with us. And so I guess we're hoping that they will, quote unquote, make a deal, whatever Donald Trump wants. And if they don't, then I guess we're going to bomb the crap out of them. So it seems. What's going on? So Iran is having big-ass protests right now. There are people in the streets in Iran. This is percolated every few years since the Iranian Revolution of 1979, which basically reimposed hardline rule on Iran. Iran has every few years had protests against the current regime. And some years those have been bigger and stronger than others. And right now Iran is having some of the biggest protests they've ever had against their regime. People out in the streets by the dozens, by the hundreds, by the millions. No, by the probably thousands. Thousands is probably the right number here. With signs like freedom for Iran and woman, life, freedom. I mean, you got to give people credit. There's a translation issue going on here. But woman, life, freedom. Women in Iran, they want freedom. And so people are protesting against the hardline government of Iran and all of its nefarious shenanigans. And the government has responded with really draconian crackdowns by basically shooting protesters. Like just, pegging them down like one by one. And this has put a lot of pressure on the Iranian regime because they look weak, they look vulnerable, they look desperate, they look mean to their own people, and they look like they are slowly losing control a little bit of their country. And this puts them in a bad position to be negotiating hardline positions with the United States. So this is a far cry. Seeing woman, life, freedom on signs in Iran is a far cry from the America is the great Satan signs, which have been very prevalent in the past in Iran, going back to protests as far back as pre-Iranian Revolution, in which basically young people who just like had the normal frustrations of life, as very like progressive young people tend to do, and then older people who were very conservative. Like, so what happened in the Iranian Revolution back in 1979 is they had a ruler who was like a decent enough ruler, but people were a little bit frustrated with. Iran was a place of relative liberation. Okay, here's the Iranian Revolution. They basically had like relatively decent freedoms and a relatively decent ruler. And there was this like sort of coming together of like hardline religious conservatives who wanted Iran to go back to where they had been for much of the previous 1400 years, which was like hardline Islam. And then young people who were concerned that Iran was not liberal enough, who were mad at the Shah for not liberalizing reform aggressively enough. And this combination of people who had no particular shared interest overthrew the regime and installed new leadership in Iran, which was much, much, much more hardline. And so it has created kind of a hardline, chaotic condition in Iran since 1979. This is Iran, like in the 6th, 7th century. Iran was one of the most prosperous places in the world. They were doing really well for a while, but hardline Islam took over and plunged them into a fairly long depth of despair there for many centuries. They went through a little period from the late 1700s until the early 20th century in which democracy began to flourish in Iran. Of course, that all came to a startling halt with the Iranian Revolution in 1979. And so this is where Iran was circa the 1960s, the 1970s. It was a very progressive place. Women would get education. People could wear, whatever they wanted out in public. It was very westernized. And you'll meet people who have fled from Iran in years since who are still pissed about everything that went down there in the years following 1979. There's a lot that you can't do in Iran today that you could do in Iran then. Back in the 1970s, before the Iranian Revolution, you could dress in whatever you wanted in public. Today, women are legally required to observe an Islamic dress code and wear a hijab in public. Back before 1979, you could attend Western cultural events openly, like music concerts, foreign films, cultural performances. Now, much of that does not exist in Iran. It's super heavily regulated because there is no longer uncensored access to Western media. Today, internet access in Iran is heavily filtered and monitored, much like it is in China, with platforms blocked. Back before 1979, there were nightclubs, bars, mixed-gender social events, and now most of that is banned or restricted. Back then, men and women could be out alone in public or together in public, mingling freely in public and social settings, and now sex segregation is fully enforced in schools, swimming pools, sports facilities, and public events. You used to have secular legal courts, and now you mostly have religious courts, and basically Islamic jurisprudence that governs the country, affecting marriage, custody, inheritance, pretty much everything, is governed by Islam rather than secular laws. Back then you had freedom of political expression against the monarchy. Now, political dissent is often met with stricter controls like being shot when you protest. There used to be fairly broad openness to Western business and trade partnerships after basically extensive sanctions on Iran and very, very limited engagement with the West, and Iran's economy has suffered. Iran's GDP per capita today is actually lower than in Iraq, which is pretty crazy given what Iraq has been through. Back then, you did not have to attend prayer if you didn't want to. Now, public religious norms like prayer in schools and Islamic dress are, of course, rigorously enforced. You used to have open media, and now basically everything is controlled by the state. One of these classic examples of a country that decided that putting the state in charge of everything was going to be a really good idea because they would take care of everyone. And now everyone, a lot of people aren't so happy about that. So this was Iran prior to 1979. The before and after, of course, the westernized garb versus the full hijab there in Tehran. Tehran's a bit of a chaotic mess, if you've ever been there. And not only that, but Iran became Islamic hardliners. They were bitter about U.S. support for the Shah, and so they've kind of been at odds with the U.S. for a long time. They've picked proxy wars against the U.S., and they have built up a nuclear program. And for God's sakes, for 50 or since 1950s, now for 75 years, Iran has been enriching uranium. This is, I feel like my entire life, all I've heard about is Iran enriching uranium. How many goddamn years does it take to enrich uranium? I don't know. I've never tried to enrich uranium. I don't know how hard that is to do. I don't know if it's something you can do in your basement. But Iran's been trying for a very long time. And I guess it doesn't help when every once in a while the U.S. comes in and like bombs your whole uranium enrichment facilities. But it does seem like it's taking them an awfully long time. And so this makes the U.S. uneasy because Iran is a very destabilizing force in the region, continues sponsoring terrorism around the world and picking fights not only with the U.S. but with many of its other enemies, and is just generally a dangerous and chaotic regime that poses a big problem to anybody that believes in like Western freedoms. Now, for a long time, Iran was essentially counterbalanced by the presence of Iraq and Saddam Hussein. The two were sort of equivalent enough that they could be kind of counterweights that would be perpetually fixated on fighting with each other. From 1980 to 1988, Iran and Iraq were engaged in a bitter civil war, which basically occupied both of their resources and kept them from doing too much terrorism abroad. And, you know, even though they were sort of like, they were both Islamic hardliners, they still didn't like each other, and so they got into a big fight and were constantly at each other's throats. Of course, one of the consequences of the U.S. in going in and taking out Saddam Hussein is we removed that counterweight to Iran and left Iran a little bit rogue in that part of the world. And so we went from basically Iran and Iraq being counterweights to now Saudi Arabia having to step up and fill the void of a geopolitical counterweight to Iran, which is not the worst thing for us because the U.S. and Saudi Arabia are essentially allies, not perhaps in culture, but certainly in a sort of shared economic and geopolitical interest. We are allies with Saudi Arabia. We ran Gulf War operations from Saudi Arabia, and despite our differences, we give them money, they give us oil. That works out pretty well for everyone involved. And so the U.S. and Saudi Arabia are one of the weirder allied pair of countries in the world. And that means that Saudi Arabia is opposed to Iran, despite them both being Islamic fundamentalist countries. They kind of have to like sit there and scare each other in order to keep. Well, Saudi has to scare Iran in order to prevent Iran from doing too much that's too nefarious. Saudi's not always on our side, but generally speaking, they've been okay. The problem is since like 2013, we've used a lot less Saudi oil, and so it puts a lot less imperative on everybody getting along. It's one of the consequences to America being oil independent is those countries that we used to buy a lot of oil from us don't like us as much anymore. Everything comes with a trade-off. The world's a complicated place. But Saudi continues to be the best kind of home base we have to essentially offset Iran as Iran gets up to nefarious stuff. And they do get up to nefarious stuff because they try to start proxy wars all over the region, and it's a little messy. We'll talk about that here in a moment. And so the U.S. has basically been trying to kind of hold Iran at bay for a while, make sure that Iran knows they can't get up to anything too crazy. They can't enrich too much uranium too fast. They can't sponsor too much terrorism, or else we'll go bomb the smithereens out of them, as we did after it was basically more or less confirmed that they had largely sponsored the October 7th attacks in 2023 and also have been responsible for other various proxy attacks on the United States. The U.S. bombed the smithereens out of Iran last year. We did that big strike on their nuclear facilities, and maybe didn't take out as much as Trump initially said we did. But the U.S. has continued to build up a presence in the Middle East to try to deter Iran. We have something like 56,000 troops stationed in various base points here along the Persian Gulf in countries like Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman down here. Somebody was mentioning Oman before. Oman's actually fairly important. Why is Oman so important? Because everybody else we have in here, all the other bases we have, are inside are inside well, they touch the Persian Gulf, and they are inside this very, very important little moment here in the waterway, which is the Straits of Hormuz. So, in other words, if you're going to move a boat from anywhere else in the world up into the Persian Gulf to try to fight Iran, you have to move that boat up through the Straits of Hormuz in order to get it to the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, or Kuwait. And so the ability for the U.S. to have a base that is outside the Straits of Hormuz, outside the Straits of Hormuz, but which is still regionally relevant, is very, very important. And so it is very important for the U.S. to have some kind of presence in Oman. Oman is basically a neutral country, but basically lets the U.S. set up military operations there. And this all matters a bit because the U.S. has been gradually building up our military position in the Middle East, little bit by little bit, over the last several weeks. So this is basically what the U.S. had as of April 2025. I don't know why Iran is suddenly surrounded by water in this image, but there are a whole bunch of various, I don't know, different kinds of weaponry and whatnot that the U.S. has over there. We got drones, we got F-35s, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. And we have basically ramped all of this up significantly over the last several weeks. So this is, I guess, where our troop deployments have escalated a bit over time. In particular, this Al Udeid Air Base, which sits in Qatar, has really, really, really visibly ramped up the presence of planes and other stuff. The U.S. has a giant presence in Bahrain and a giant presence in Qatar. We have most of our military stuff, as well as up here in Kuwait, which is, of course, still grateful to us for liberating them in 1991. Those are the places where we really have built up a huge presence. And this is not abstract. This is that air base there in Qatar, where it is very visible the U.S. has started parking lots and lots of planes. We have landed a whole bunch of like F-35s and whatnot, and other like fighter jets, bombers, and things like that, capable of conducting airstrikes over Iran at any moment. And we've got the ability now to launch like 600 cruise missiles if we want to at Iran. So lots and lots and lots of planes. We have visible, I guess these are like, let's see here, the left is the precondition. The right is where we've set up a whole bunch of anti-aircraft launcher things, missile launcher things. So we can shoot down Iranian stuff over the Persian Gulf. The U.S. is usually pretty good at shooting down anything Iran tries to do. I mean, Iran has to know by now that, we'd probably kick their asses at anything militarily at this point. It's just a matter of how much will there is for the U.S. to actually do anything. And then this is in Oman, where very visibly the U.S. is starting to park planes as well. So Oman does matter. Like the fact that the U.S. has planes and an aircraft carrier now outside of Oman, it does matter. But that is also America being kind of keeping all contingencies on the table in case Iran tries to close the Straits of Hormuz. So we also have, so we parked the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is an aircraft carrier. We parked that, in the area. So that was like the first big aircraft carrier move. In the Arabian Sea, so that's like number one. So we got one big giant aircraft carrier here, the USS Abraham Lincoln, which you'd think that's a pretty cool name for an aircraft carrier. So on the Abraham Lincoln, we have, F-18 Super Hornets, F-35 Lightnings. I don't know. You guys military people probably know what these things are better than I do. I don't know if they all sound cool. Whole bunch of stuff. It's a big aircraft carrier. And a whole bunch of stuff that's parked on it now that sounds like it can fight a war for us. We've got carrier-based fighter and strike aircraft. We've got electronic warfare and radar jamming aircraft. We've got helicopters for anti-submarine and rescue. We've got stealth fighter for carrier operations and airborne early warning and commercial aircraft. The fizzy water flavor is cranberry lime polar, which is fine. It's one of the better ones. I don't know if I'd say it's the best, but it's pretty good. Sometimes I drink too much of it and then I get sick of it. There's cranberry lime and then there's like raspberry lime, which is also very good, of the polar flavors. So we moved the USS Abraham Lincoln out there. Okay, here we got more big. So back in June 2025, we had 2 aircraft carriers parked out in the Arabian Sea, the USS Carl Vinson and the USS Nimitz. Now we have the USS Abraham Lincoln and several destroyers out there. And yeah, okay, so June of last year, we had 125 aircraft, including 7 B-2 bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles out in the Arabian Sea. Now we've got 1 aircraft carrier, but wait, because we have actually moved a whole second aircraft carrier out there, which I'll talk about in a second. This is the location of some of the stuff we have out there now. We've got 2 destroyers up there in the Mediterranean. We've got attack planes out of Jordan. We've got a guided missile destroyer there in the Red Sea. We've set up a logistics hub for an aircraft carrier there in Duqm in Oman. By the way, we recently and will be launching more videos specifically from Duqm in Oman on our LANDCasts International sister channel. If you want to know what Duqm in Oman actually looks like on the ground, we're going to have real legit original footage that we took there in the past. And then 2 destroyers. They're right around the Straits of Hormuz, 3 combat ships in the Persian Gulf, and now, okay, I keep building up for it. I forget what order I put stuff in. There is a second aircraft carrier. Okay, we also have a whole bunch of people up there in Kuwait. Kuwait City, it's a hell of a city. Not that good for walking around, but if you want like gluttonous eating, they eat a lot in Kuwait. You wouldn't think it, but Kuwait is it's the fattest country in the world. And nobody goes outside. Nobody walks. Nobody does any exercise because it's so hot. So people just put on weight. There's lots of servants, lots of food. Okay, here we go. The USS Gerald Ford. So Abraham Lincoln and Gerald Ford are going to team up, and those are the aircraft carriers that we're going to use to fight our newest war against Iran. So the Gerald Ford has been on quite a mission here. The Gerald Ford was way up in he was way up in the North Sea. He was patrolling Norway, Sweden and Denmark and the UK and stuff. And then we moved the USS Gerald Ford all around. We kind of took him around Italy, through the Mediterranean. We took it through the Straits of Gibraltar and then across the Atlantic Ocean. We set it up just in time for us to go do the whole Venezuela thing. So Gerald Ford was involved in the whole Venezuela strike, and now the Gerald Ford is going to travel back across the world over to Iran so that we can do another Iran strike. And then maybe just after that, we'll move it over to Taiwan, and then we'll take out Taiwan. So this is proof, I guess we know the Gerald Ford was there in the Caribbean. There's parked off the Caribbean. That's not Epstein Island. It could be Epstein Island, but it's not. Norway is leading in medals. Yeah, well, part of the problem there, Lurky, is that the Winter Olympics is basically just a tutorial in how to live in Norway. Like, the stuff that people actually do as winter sports anywhere else in the world, for some reason, doesn't show up in the Winter Olympics. Like, what do U.S. athletes do in the winter? Well, they do basketball, they do hockey, they do volleyball, they do swimming. Like, other than hockey, none of this crap is happening over in that part of the world during the Olympics. Okay, there's the Straits of Hormuz. Okay, this is a zoom in on the Straits of Hormuz, which, every time we get into a little tit for tat with Iran, Their go-to move is to threaten to block the Straits of Hormuz. It's kind of the one thing they have the ability to do because it's this tiny, narrow little waterway. Everybody who's trying to get up into the Persian Gulf has got to go up through the Straits of Hormuz. Even Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which sit in the United Arab Emirates, sit like over on this side of the United Arab Emirates. And so to get to those places, you have to go up through the Straits of Hormuz if you want to go there by boat. And so this is Iran's big move to try to close the Straits of Hormuz. That's why this is on the betting markets right now. That if the U.S. tries to do a whole bunch of military stuff in Iran, that's what Iran will try to do. And they'll try to trap our aircraft carrier inside of the Straits of Hormuz and basically try to complicate our operations. And so the U.S. has basically got to be prepared to try to blow out all the Iranian stuff that tries to block that strait. It'd be nice if we could just carve a giant canal through the United Arab Emirates, I guess. So that's one move. And you can see this is how important the Straits of Hormuz are to global shipping. Because a lot of oil comes out of the Middle East, has to go through the Straits of Hormuz, and then has to get shipped around the world. And the quickest way to get it west toward the United States is to take it through the Straits of Hormuz, around Oman and Yemen, up through the Straits of Bab al-Mandeb, up through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, through the Mediterranean, through the Bosporus, and then through the Straits of Gibraltar, and then across the Atlantic Ocean. It's a whole bunch of really, really tight little choke points if you want to start shipping stuff from the other side of the world. That means there's a lot of vulnerability there. So we got to stay on good terms with everybody that operates all those choke points. I mean, I would assume the U.S. will just blow through whatever Iran does there, but that's their go-to is always to threaten to block the Straits of Hormuz. You would think if you just drove an aircraft carrier through there, you could just plow over whatever they have, but I'm no military strategist here. The U.S. has 11 aircraft carriers. And you just put them side by side. You just plow them through there, and whatever Iran has trying to block the way, you just drive over it. Would be my attack. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a military tactician. And so I guess this is what the buildup looks like now. There's I'm just pulling these graphics from everybody that's trying to represent the U.S. military buildup there, but it's basically all on all sides of it. Well, it is on all sides of Iran, but mostly it's to the southwest of Iran, which is actually pretty far from Tehran, which is like way up here. But though that is where the U.S. has been able to basically build up forces and would launch any kind of massive offensive against Iran if we chose to do that. Okay, here, meanwhile, is Iran's defensive posture. So Tehran is their biggest city. It's about the size of Chicago. It's up here in the north, pretty far away from the coast. Most of Iran's other cities are pretty small, although they do have a bunch of other cities. They have a bunch of military bases set up across their country. They also have a whole bunch of proxy bases set up in countries they are allied with, which are basically all the bad countries like Syria, Yemen, a little bit in Iraq, and Afghanistan. So all the countries that have like bad actors, Iran seems to be allied with. They're like a cartoon villain, that Iran. And so Hezbollah, the Iraqi Shia militias, the Houthi rebels, the Hamas, the Taliban, and the Shia foreign fighters are all part of Iran's extended network. Man, it's like a superhero contingent of just awful forces. Like if you put together a bracket of Iran, Hezbollah, the Iraqi Shia militias, the Houthi rebels, Hamas, the Taliban, Shia foreign fighters, and ISIS, you'd have like an all-star team of just awful entities. You know, hardline Islamists that believe in terrorism for the most part. So anyway, let me go back here. Because actually within Iran, you can see the locations of a lot of so they've lined up a lot of their bases and whatnot along the coast. opposite the Persian Gulf from where America has all of its stuff built up. And so that Persian Gulf, maybe not the place to go swimming right now. I have been in the Persian Gulf myself, and I can vouch for the fact that entire waterway is made of oil and bombs. Iran is hurting right now, so their proxies aren't as effective. That's part of why the U.S. is trying to put so much pressure on Iran right now. They have a lot of domestic pressure from these protests. The position of their government is weaker now than it has been in a while, and the U.S. feels like this is a moment when we can make some progress. Here is a suspected Iranian base in Syria. Of course, the U.S. keeps pretty aggressive intelligence on the locations of some of these Iraqi bases outside of Iraq, or Iranian bases outside of Iran. These are some of the strategic targets the U.S. has identified within Iran. So if the U.S. is going to get into like a little war thing with Iran, probably not some kind of giant ground invasion, probably not even some Russia-style aerial assault trying to take out the regime, much as I think Americans would love to see Iran have a regime that was better than the regime they have. I think mostly what you'll see is a really, really, really concerted and aggressive American bombing campaign to take out a massive number of these installations, enough to basically scare the pants off the Iranian leadership, and so much so that they would be afraid to actually retaliate, which would make them really pissed off. It is likely that Iran would try to do some kind of retaliation, which the U.S. Would in turn try to stop. Remember last year, after the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, what Iran tried to do in response was to launch a whole bunch of missiles, which the U.S. promptly shot down every single one of them and basically said, just kind of like slapped it all down and was like, no, you're not doing that. And so that's, I guess, what the U.S. would be hoping for this time. I think the risk for the U.S. here is that this somehow escalates into a whole bunch of warfare with Iran, and then also proxy wars with all these dangerous terrorist states that are allied with Iran. And that's how this could really become something dangerous for the U.S., because right now, domestic U.S. palate is not for like some big protracted international war with a whole bunch of terrorist groups. But you get like Hezbollah and Hamas and all these groups all riled up, as well as the Iranians. You get some dangerous actors on their hands. These are already a hornet's nest of people that don't like the U.S. and are willing to propagate terrorism against America. The U.S. could get ourselves into that kind of situation pretty darn fast, where those people are all riled up and coming after us. So the U.S. has got to be really, really careful about how we choose to engage here. Donald Trump tends to operate on a little bit of a freewheeling style. And so I guess what's going to happen now is the U.S. is going to go into some kind of negotiations here, nuclear talks with Iran, and Trump has basically said everybody else who negotiated before him did a bad job. So he's going to try to negotiate better with Iran here, get them to cut it the hell out with all their shenanigans. Iran, for their part, has said, no way. We're going to keep enriching uranium. For the next 1,000 years, we're going to keep enriching uranium. We'll see. But, if Iran doesn't play ball, if Iran doesn't want to negotiate, then I guess we have the pieces in place to go bomb the smithereens out of them. Whether the American public likes it or not, and predictably, American protesters will be out on the street taking the side of Iran, saying no war on Iran and U.S. imperialism, because we have so successfully taught our young people that they believe that anything that's not the United States, no matter how evil or terroristic it is still better than U.S. imperialism. This degree of self-loathing domestically is pretty darn infuriating to a lot of Americans. But I am looking forward, I suppose, to the protests in Washington, D.C., in which a whole bunch of the same people that are out there, protesting Doge and ICE and all these other things will be out there protesting on behalf of Iran against the United States. You can bank on it. Yeah, meanwhile, we'll just line up all the aircraft carriers, get them all prepared to just go bomb the crap out of Iran. As John McCain used to say, bomb, 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 bomb Iran was his favorite Beach Boys song. Meanwhile, Iran has tried to line up its bargaining chips. Iran, believe it or not, actually is behind the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. They went in, they broke into Nancy Guthrie's house, they abducted her, they took her back to Iran, and they will use Nancy Guthrie's alive body as a bargaining chip here in negotiations with the U.S. Donald Trump's going to be like, if you don't stop your nuclear program, we'll bomb the smithereens out of you. And Iran will be like, no, we want to keep enriching uranium, but if you leave us alone, we'll return Nancy Guthrie to you. And Donald Trump will be like, I watch a lot of cable news. Anything to get the Nancy Guthrie story off my TV is fine. Just give me the Nancy Guthrie body and just get this off of my TV, and we'll be good. We'll be good. We'll call it a day, U.S. and Iran. So that's the deal here. Iran is behind the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. Man, those masks are creepy, aren't they? See, yeah, they've done it before. Iran accused of abducting journalist's family over war. See, this was like half a year ago. They already did it. Back in June, Iran detained the family members of an international journalist. Yeah, Iran didn't like Samantha Guthrie's cupcake chatter on the fourth hour of the Today Show. And so they abducted her mom. I mean, not to make light of this potentially tragic situation, but it is. I'm making light more of the relative weight we put on things, like the potential to instigate some kind of big war with Iran is more aggregately impactful than this Nancy Guthrie house we keep staring at 24/7 every day. Let's see, what did I put next here? Okay, this was like a guy that went on a rampage in the Hong Kong airport. Yeah, I mean, this is of course, everyone wants to obey the rules everywhere they go. You want to obey the TSA, but I'm gonna say there's something seeing this guy just knock over all the TSA stuff. Quite the thing. And sometimes people get frustrated at the airport. Having spent a lot of time at airports in the last week, you get bossed around by these folks. I don't know. Does the shutdown? I guess the shutdown is slightly reduced the number of TSA staff. I've not seen any tangible impact of that yet, but the shenanigans on Capitol Hill that nobody can really understand, I guess, involves we're going to punish the TSA because of ICE. And so people are going to wait longer at the airport now. The Democrats are, I guess, holding up DHS funding, which is causing the TSA workers to not get paid, even though ICE is already funded. And so all of us are going to have to wait at the airport a little bit longer right now until the Republicans agree to stop ICE or something. That's what's going on. Meanwhile, we'll do. I don't know. Maybe we'll do more on this at some point. The Congo's had 1 million people are starving to death right now in the Congo. We pick and choose what we seem to care about, but Yeah, this whole conflict in which Rwandan-backed rebels have commandeered control of the Congo and basically are preventing any food from getting to the people of the Congo is a pretty darn dramatic story. All right, and then of course, okay, then the Olympics. I'm going to upload a couple of shorts on the Olympics. Are you guys watching the Olympics? Like, I've been watching them a little bit myself, and I don't know. Like, are people so cynical? They're like, ah, no, the Olympics. That's like some kind of tool of the state. We don't care about the Olympics. It's just stupid, like stupid competition. Or are people watching the Olympics? I watched a puff piece on NBC today about how great Norway is. I learned that the reason Norway is so successful in the Winter Olympics is that Norwegians like to have fun. NBC's reporting is garbage, by the way. Yeah, but the Norwegians are very successful in the Winter Olympics because the Winter Olympics is basically all the sports they do in Norway, and Norway is sitting on a giant astronomical pool of oil wealth, which allows them to live very cushy lifestyles in which they work very limited work weeks and then go like do downhill ski jumping the rest of the time there. It's also a very homogeneous population of people with lots of expendable income, so they do a lot of winter sports and ski slope stuff. But Norway is cleaning up on the medals right now. The U.S. is doing crappily, as could have been predicted. Many of these U.S. stories, like Lindsey Vonn going and skiing at like age 41 or 43 or whatever, have crapped out in a major way. More U.S. athletes melting down under the anxiety of Olympic pressure. This seems to be a theme anymore, that Gen Z American athletes cannot handle the pressure of the international stage, which is different from America in the past. You know, back in the old days, the days of Neil Armstrong, America was like, it was the country where if you needed something done, you call an American to get it done. And now, one after another, American athletes, faced with the big stage, are wilting on the big stage, while athletes from other countries are rising to the occasion. Therefore, I declare that I will do all of these events better than the athletes that are doing them. I'm going to do the ski jumping and the figure skating and the ice dancing and the Super G, whichever one that is, and the moguls and the half pipe and the super slope or whatever the hell. Events are getting ridiculous now. But it's been more or less entertaining to watch, except for the damn curling. Why is there so much damn curling on TV? They unceasingly are showing curling, and it's extremely boring, and I can't figure out how the scoring works. The Olympics are too touchy-feely for Jeanette these days. That might just be NBC's coverage tends to be very, very, very touchy-feely. The mainstream networks, the NBC, ABC, CBS, seem to be just competing against each other to see who can be the most touchy-feely these days. The news anchors are extremely touchy-feely. They are just, like, they're all about the tears and the vibes and the feels. The Today Show is just trash. The shows on those networks are trash. The way the way they broadcast everything is just this soft, touchy-feely stuff now. And I guess they think that's what people want. Yeah, I saw Canada's cheating at curling. I mean, it is possible to watch the Olympics and not get sucked into everything being political about it. Like, I do feel like there are some folks that like they've made themselves miserable by fixating on the politics of every aspect of sports. And like, yes, should the athletes stop being political? Probably. But it is also possible to watch the sports without fixating on the political side of them. Like, it actually doesn't really matter that much what these dumb athletes have to say about politics. So when they say stuff about politics, just disregard it. And if they're like, if it's fun to watch them as athletes, enjoy that part of them and not the political part of them. Tess says, thank you, Land, or love you, Land. Thanks for being here so regularly. That's an odd time to say that, considering we didn't stream basically all of last week, nor did we really upload much all of last week, except on our sister channel, LANDCasts International, where we continue to upload stuff frequently. So make sure to be subscribed to that. But we should be back in the saddle a little bit more here this week. So I don't know. Should I like apologize for being away for the week? Probably not, because it happens, and that's just sort of the cadence of things. But don't ever fret or fear, because we are never going to be away for too long. We will always come back, unless we die. I mean, eventually we'll die, and then the thing will probably be over, unless somebody decides to inherit the channel and do something else with it. So I don't know, guys. What is like one thing that's happening in the world right now that we are not talking about, that we should be talking about? Jeanette also thinks we need a poll. What should the poll be? What should the poll be? I don't disagree. I think a poll would be great. I also like what should we be asking you guys? Okay, Sudan killings. We should be talking about. There's always a lot of crazy stuff going on in Africa that we could be reporting more on. Are we ordering Girl Scout cookies? Okay, that's an interesting question, Tess. How do people feel about the whole Girl Scout cookie thing? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Are people... We'll make this clean and simple. Are people ordering Girl Scout cookies? Yes or no? Let's pull this down. We'll pull the live chat up here. Let's see how we're doing. What are people thinking here on the Girl Scout cookies? Are people ordering Girl Scout cookies? 3 votes in so far. So get your votes in here. Tess ordered 4 boxes. What kind of Girl Scout cookies? Sudan killings or South African killing? The Somali pirates? Village Knack wants stuff on. Clearly people are hungry for African news, apparently. Voter ID and the SAVE Act, says Quiet Castle. So we're getting to the point where we're going to have to start talking about midterm stuff. I'm not super excited about it. I guess they'll put Washington, D.C. back into the driver's seat on newsy stuff. But yeah, the whole thing right now, the Republicans are trying to do a vote, so the Democrats have to go on record saying they don't want voter ID, and then the Republicans think that'll be a bad look for the Democrats. Yeah, we can do more on that for sure. Beef22, thanks for joining us. Tess Castro, thanks for joining us. Villagenac, thanks for joining us here in the chat. Let's see, John Celeste, as always, appreciate your thoughts, your comments. Always give me perspective on what we're talking about. I mean that sincerely. Lurky, Norman Patterson, thanks guys for hanging out with us here. Jerry Carter as well. Snazzy Storm also. Let's see, Gator Don't Play. I think I may have gotten you earlier. I think Calming the Chaos I saw in here earlier. And okay, that's as far back as it will let me scroll. So yeah, I appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. Great crew here, as always. The Thin Mints are, yeah, those are like by far the most popular of the Girl Scout cookies. My actual like second favorite of the Girl Scout cookies are ones that I feel like most people don't gravitate to them, but the peanut butter sandwich cookies are actually really good. I don't remember what they're called. What all the I don't remember all the fancy ass names the Girl Scouts use for their cookies. I feel like the Girl Scouts should be making the cookies. If you're gonna be like trumpeting your cookies around, you shouldn't just be like selling, cookies that you ordered and then resold. That's just teaching somebody how to be a middleman. Like a middleman salespeople is like not a particularly admirable part of our economy. You kind of need it, I guess, because somebody's got to buy from the wholesalers and then break it down and then resell it to local. That's just like Dunder Mifflin stuff. Like, why are we teaching that as a skill? Like, we should be teaching people how to make the cookies. Like, source the materials, make the cookies, sell the cookies. Like plant the cookie tree, water and fertilize the cookie tree, watch the cookie tree grow, and then go pick the cookies off the cookie tree. Get the ladder out there, hot summer day, pick the cookies when they're ripe, put them in a bushel, put them into boxes, and then sell them. Tess, I appreciate the $10, Tess. Now, when you do a super chat, you get like you get to like request anything you want. You get to ask a question. You get to request a land rant. We'll go above and beyond. For anybody that does a super chat, you get to make special requests, and we will do whatever we can to try to accommodate them. So let me know. Let me test if there's something that you would like us to cover or talk about or answer. Some heartfelt confession, like whatever you would like. Very much appreciate the contributions, sincerely. We have a lot more people watching right now than have voted on the poll about Girl Scout cookies. So somebody needs to get in there, right? Right now, most people are not ordering Girl Scout cookies, it seems like. But it's a small vote total here. Did people fall asleep? It is a little late. We're falling asleep here. For our polls, you don't need to have voter ID, but apparently you do need to have a YouTube account, which, I don't know, whatever YouTube does to make you verify that you are an extant person, you have to do that. Maybe for like voting, instead of voter ID, they should make you do one of those little CAPTCHA things where you have to like drag the puzzle piece into place. Like, I want people to have to like sit there and do little like word problems. Little pictograph games. Jeanette, we need to do a bracket night. Yeah, we haven't done a bracket night in a while. What would our bracket night be on? One of the things I've wanted to do in the lead up to the forthcoming, because we're actually not that far away, the forthcoming Major League Baseball season is get into our hot stove coverage. I have like full shows prepared on each of the 30 Major League Baseball franchises. And I don't know quite when or how to dig into that. Sometime soon, perhaps, would be a good place to start. Raisins. I assume that's raisins are a letdown. Yeah. Well, yeah, they can be. I don't dislike raisins as much as an adult as I did as a kid. If you think swimming with dolphins is expensive, you should try swimming with sharks. It cost me an arm and a leg. Yeah, that's not bad, Nightbot. That's a decent joke. Okay, Beef22 asks, serious topic. A cookie without chocolate is a biscuit. Okay. Okay, a cookie without chocolate is a biscuit. I guess, yeah. I guess I'm on board with that. Calling a cookie without chocolate a cookie should be a hate crime. Like a sugar cookie. I mean, a sugar cookie is a legit cookie. A peanut butter cookie is a legit cookie, especially with raisins that look like chocolate chips. Now yeah, that's pretty offensive. Is when you create like a. Sometimes they'll do like an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie. That's gross. And then sometimes you'll get a cookie that you think has chocolate chips in it, but it actually has raisins in it. I'm good with like a bread pudding it's like a chocolate bread pudding that has some raisins in it. Like I can do that. Depends how juicy the raisins are. Like the little raisins you get in those little Sun-Maid boxes are nasty. But like you actually get like good, nice, fresh raisins. Do they even still sell those little raisins boxes? Everybody used to eat those as like a snack back in the day. I haven't seen one of those in years. Those little red Sun-Maid raisins boxes. What's your biggest regret from the last month? What happened in the last month? What's the date? February 17th? My biggest regret in the last month is not making more progress on a particular set of emails that I intended to send for a productive purpose. Man, that's boring. My biggest regret of last month is not sending a bunch of emails. I should think of something more interesting to answer that question with. But that's my actual answer. Voter ID. You can use a credit card for voter ID, really? I mean, I would be kind of more partial to like what if we just had like an oligarchy? Like there's a line between like voter requirements and then like an oligarchy where only a certain subset of very select people actually get to vote. Like, is it unreasonable to suggest that like the minimum voting age should be like, I don't know, 37? Like you need to be 37 to vote. You need to probably pass some kind of civics test, I would think. Probably We would want people that have worked in the private sector for at least, 15 years. You need to have worked in the private sector for 15 years, not these like, not a bureaucrat, not somebody that just sort of like gets a paycheck just cuz. Like somebody that's actually like been in the business world, that kind of knows how the economy works. Private sector employees, 15 years, 37 years old. You got to pass a civics test, and probably you should own some kind of property. And that doesn't, like, I'm not trying to exclude anybody on the basis of property here, but like, even if it's like, you own a funeral plot, you got to own something that gives you stakes in the ground, like literal stakes in the ground. Like I like those voter requirements better because like you'll have like a 50-plus year bureaucrat like Joe Biden would not be eligible to vote on the basis of my criteria. But like, good old responsible Joe the plumber, like he could vote. He could vote. Also, like I don't want people to have like a huge amount of debt. Like I don't think that's good. Like if you're like drowning in debt and you're like embittered to the country, where you face the consequences of your vote. That's an interesting thing. I'll have to kind of make that work. If we had a good leader that the vast majority wanted to keep for more than 8 years, we should be able to keep them in office as Beef 22. Well, I did a stream where I was like, here's all the reasons why democracy's bad and monarchy would be good. And you guys didn't respond very positively to that stream. I didn't realize that, like, when people say no kings, they actually kind of mean it. Like, people actually really don't like the idea of America having a king. And I don't know, I'm kind of more open to it. Fresh raisins are grapes. That's, well, yeah, it depends how fresh we're talking. Please help the channel by making a comment or two on our videos after the live streams. That's true. That's true. I do always appreciate that. You guys chat away here in the chats, and I love that you guys are all chit-chatty with us here on the live streams. But the algorithm actually doesn't care how many comments we have in our chats. The algorithm cares much more about how many comments we get on the videos after the fact. And so if people wouldn't mind, even just pick a random video, pick this video, go leave us your thoughts in the comments on our actual videos, both here and on Land Ducks International. That is always much appreciated. You guys are like, how can I help the channel? I don't have any money. I would send you my entire bank account via a super chat, but I'm like, I can't because my bank account is negative and I'm drowning in debt and I don't want to like offload that onto Land. How can I help? Going and commenting on our videos is a great way to do that. All right, let's see. Let me see if I pull up the, okay, who's winning the top fans here. Okay, so Tess was the winner tonight. Congratulations to Tess on a well-deserved victory. Excellent job. Very, very excellent. Top fans here tonight. Okay, Tess also wins the top fans. Wait, was Tess also our winner? So Tess won the winner thing and the top fans? Tess, that's like a clean sweep. If anybody ever manages to both to get the win, the top fans, and win the medal at the start, that's like the ultimate trifecta. And if you do that, if anybody ever does that, I'll pay you $1 trillion of fake money. I will send you a fake $1 trillion bill. So Tess one of the top fans thing. John Celeste number 2, Beef 22 number 3, Jerry Carter 4, Feliginac 5, Gator Don't Play 6, Lurky 7, Snazzy Storm 8, Spyman 9, Norman Patterson 10, Calming the Chaos 11. Tess, you won 575 points. I have no idea what that even means, but you apparently won 575 points. John Celeste, for second place, only won 125, and everybody else seems to get 75 or 50. So, where the scores are made up and the points don't matter, as they used to say on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Bitcoin would still be, one Bitcoin would still be worth about $86,000 or something like that. $68,000, I don't know. Bitcoin's somewhere in $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 right now. I do appreciate the work of our mods here. Quiet Castle and Jeanette, as always, very much appreciate everything they do here on behalf of the channel. Also, James Games and Moniker and Nightbot for... Nightbot's like our honorary 5th computer mod. Thanks, Nightbot, for being such a good bot. Do you ever wish you had a body, like a human, organic body, Nightbot, or like, are you happy being a computer? Because like, there are pros and cons to being like an organic entity. Being like an organic creature is kind of a weird thing. Like, you have like sentience, but you're also like teeming with like bacteria. Like your stomach acid is constantly, like your body is constantly eating itself. It's kind of weird. Nightbot and Sexbot are hooking up. We haven't had a Sexbot in a while. Sexbots all, they all get distracted by something. I wonder what that could be. Tess, you're giving us like oblong peanuts, thumbs up, and lots of ducks. Appreciate that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ducks. No, 7 ducks. 7 ducks from Tess. Appreciate it. Oh, those are hand claps, not oblong peanuts. All right. Well, that's about as far as we're going to take things tonight because it's late and stuff and, you know, whatnot. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I hope this was a little bit informative about Iran or something. Maybe we'll have another war. Maybe we won't. The world carries on. Thanks to our mods. Thanks to all of you. Remember to like and subscribe in the video. Those likes help out with YouTube. The subscribes help you guys know when we're on. Check our description, as always, for links to our Discord, our Duck Fund, and our sister channel, Land Ducks International. I think that's it. All right. I appreciate it, guys. Don't be strangers. We'll be back. This is Land. That ain't just speculation. And for now, I hope you all have a good night.